So the time recording this video, we are less than 2 weeks away from the start of the 2023 NHRA Capital Drag Racing Series season down in Gainesville Raceway for the Gatornationals. With that is going to kick off a whole new season, which what I feel is going to be a very pivotal moment in the trajectory of that series. And what I mean by that is when I started covering this series back in 2022, the reason why I chose NHRA versus any other series is because when I was looking around at the possible series I could cover, whether that was dirt racing, whether that was sports car racing, whether that was open wheel racing or stock car racing, the one thing that kept driving me back was NHRA. And the reason for that is because the NHRA just has a feel to it. The way that I see things, the way that I see the competition, the personalities, the racing that they have, the on-track product, and just the way that they are building themselves really makes me believe that they're on the cusp. They have everything they need. They have all the ingredients, everything in the right place to give themselves that mainstream popularity boom. Drag racing, if you've ever been to, especially in the field categories, but even in the pro stock categories, it is some of the most, in my opinion, underlooked racing that this country, that the planet has to offer. If you've never been to a drag race, if you've never been to an NHRA national event, you are truly missing out on what I believe is the most underrated form of motorsports that is out there. And I know what people are going to say, oh, it's drag racing. It's just people driving in a straight line. That is so easy. Anybody can do it. Well, here's what I have to say to that. For years as a kid, you'd watch oval racing, and what do people always say about it? Oh, it's so easy, just people driving in circles. But we know that's not the case. That's never been the case. It's always, there's more to it. And that's the same way in drag racing. There's so much more to what goes on in the NHRA, in drag racing culture in general, that makes it so hard, makes it so competitive, makes it so exciting. So with that, I'm making this video to try and give you, the audience, whether you are a casual fan who has never given them a chance, whether if you've been to an NHRA event and wasn't really captured by it, or if you've been a hardcore fan for 30 years and have been watching NHRA longer than I've been alive, this video is going to give you, the fans, 5 reasons why you should watch NHRA this season, as well as I'm going to go through about 3 or 4 reasons in each of the 4 pro categories on why I feel you should be watching NHRA this season. Because if you don't, I genuinely believe that if you fail to watch this season in 10 years' time, you're going to be kicking yourself wondering, why did I not watch this sooner? You're going to regret it. I genuinely believe it. With what we saw in 2022 and the change being made in 2023, this is going to be a record-breaking historic year. And if you're not watching it, you're going to be missing out. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So reason number 1 why I feel you should be watching NHRA this season is the fan accessibility. This past weekend, I was out of Daytona for Speed Weeks, aka the Daytona Couple of Evenings. And when I was out there, during the downtime between sessions on the Jumbotron, they would do the normal thing that any series would, which is promote something to try and get fans to spend more money. And the number 1 thing that they kept promoting over and over and over again was this UNOH fan zone. And is a little thing that they have where if you buy a special ticket, you get access into this fan zone. And what that also is their biggest selling point on why you should be in there is the garages. Now, you can't go in the garages, but what they do have, and what a few tracks have started doing, is they put this little window into the wall of their garages, and it gives you an opportunity to look inside these cars' garage stalls and watch them work on the cars. You can watch them work on the cars. You can see the drivers walk in, and sometimes if you're lucky, they'll walk up to you and have a little slot underneath that you can shove your stuff under and get signed. And that's fine. A couple of our tracks have something like that. Talladega and Richmond, from what I remember, they actually do have something where you can walk in and there's a little railing that you can stand behind and you can literally look at the cars. Obviously the most famous one is probably the Neon Garage in Las Vegas, where I believe it's an overhead hanging view. And that's fine. I get that. But the thing in the NHRA that is so unique compared to everything else is they don't have something like that. They have something completely different. Here's another example. If you've ever been to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the month of May, they have this thing called the Bronze Badge program where it gives you spend $150 or so for a badge and you get free general admission. And their biggest selling point is, oh, unlike everywhere else in the season, you get to go into the garage, you can wander the garage, you can see these cars, watch them be built, and watch your favorite drivers and go up and meet them. But in the NHRA, it's a lot different. All you do is you can go and buy a general admission ticket, $65. That is about $80 or so less than what you have to buy a bronze badge for, or God knows how much you need to spend to get a hot pass. You don't need to know anybody to get this. What you do, you go buy a general admission ticket, and that's your hot pass. You can walk to the garages, you can walk up to the haulers, walk up to the trailers, you can see these cars being worked on, you can watch the crew, people smash away, rebuilding these engines in about an hour time. It takes them 4 minutes to tear down these engines, and then they can rebuild it from scratch. And you can watch this all happen in person behind a stanchion a few feet away from a car that just went 330 miles an hour down a drag strip. You get the opportunity to go into an active garage area during an NHRA national event weekend, and you get to go up and you get to meet these people and look at these cars as they're being built by hand. It is one of the most underlooked sides that racing has to offer, and is something that every form of motorsports should be looking at. The only other series that gives you the opportunity to do anything like that is dirt racing, and the only way you do that is you have to wait until the race is over while they're packing up, and you can go in the garage and go meet your favorite driver. But in the NHRA, you can go in there from day one, the moment the cars are rolling off the trailers to get ready for qualifying round one. You can go up there and meet your favorite driver and watch these cars as they prepare for qualifying. It is the most underlooked value that NHRA has to offer. It is not something new that they've been doing either. They've been doing this since the beginning. It is just genuinely one of the coolest things that the NHRA has. It is the fan accessibility that fans want, that fans desire, the fans crave. And it is right there for you guys to see. There's, like I said, no other sport in the world, on the planet, that has a professional series where you get the opportunity to do that. For $60, you can go in the grandstands, watch a race, and then you can walk down the stands, go in the garage, and meet your favorite drivers. It is just one of the cool things that the NHRA has to offer. And they've also introduced a lot of cool things throughout the weekend to make it more exciting. It's something they're debuting this season. It's called a Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. What that is, it's not going to happen in Gainesville, but following Gainesville. What that is so starting at Arizona, what they'll do is they're going to take the semifinal round from each NHRA national event season. So say in IndyCar, in the semifinals at Gainesville, if you see Bob Tasca, John Force, Matt Hagan, Ron Capps make it to the semifinal round, what they'll do, they take those 4 drivers, move them to Arizona on the Saturday qualifying. They're going to rerun a bracket like that in qualifying. It'll still count towards the qualifying time, but it's going to be a race within qualifying. It's going to be for money and points and bragging rights, and they're going to do it from Arizona all the way until the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis. And it's just a really cool event that they're going to add to do. It's another area of racing for those fans who aren't going to be able to make it Sunday, or who maybe don't want to go to Sunday eliminations. It is just something new that they're adding. It's something fun that they're adding. It's a new exciting thing. It's not even just going to be for IndyCar. It can be for Top Fuel. It's going to be for Pro Stock and Pro Stock Motorcycle along with IndyCar. So it's a whole new deal that they're adding to make NHRA a lot more exciting throughout the weekend. And also what they're doing is the Pep Boys All-Star Call-Out, which is a whole other thing that they're doing that's a lot of fun. The way that works is they take the top 8 points from the previous season for the top 4 pro categories that I just mentioned. And what they do, so they take those top 8 points, they'll gather them all up, and the top 4 will call out the bottom 4, and that will create a bracket. And the same thing in qualifying. They're going to do it on Saturday for qualifying, and what they'll do, they take those 8, they run another whole other bracket, and they'll do the same thing. It's a whole other event that they do. It's a lot of fun the way it works. So it'll be Top Fuel Gainesville, Pro Stock of Chicago, Pro Stock Motorcycle at Sonoma, and IndyCar at Indianapolis. And they did it last year just for the fuel cars, and they added the Pro Stock or Pro Stock Motorcycle over the offseason, which I'm a big fan of. It gives them a lot more promotion for the series to promote them, and I really love it. I think they need all the help they can get to help those fans pay attention to them, and I shall talk about later, because I think if you're one of those fans in the grandstands that leave after the fuel cars are over and don't watch Pro Stock or Pro Stock Motorcycle, you're really missing out. There's a lot of personalities and a lot of great racing in those classes that you're missing out on if you don't watch them. But this is just an example of some of the things that they're adding, because there's also a lot of national events that are really cool too that you don't know about. If you live near them, that you should be checking out. There's really big marquee events throughout the season. Like I said, the Gatornationals is a marquee event. They also have Reading, Pennsylvania is another big event. They have Pomona for both the Winter Nationals and NHRA Finals is another big event. And of course, the U.S. Nationals, which is their biggest event of the season, which is 5 days of drag racing, 5 rounds of qualifying for the Pro Series, and all the sportsmen that you could think of. There are about 1,000 cars that show up on that lot for that weekend alone. And I talked to drivers who have competed in that event, And even from my own experience, it's a huge event for those guys, but it's also just a marathon. Not just to spectate, not just to cover, not just to witness, but to even compete in, just to make the event. A lot of drivers in the pro categories told me about just how much of a marathon it is for the crew guys and the crew people and the drivers just to qualify. And then on Monday alone, it's not on Sunday because it takes place on Labor Day weekend. They will go up until Monday, and then they'll run eliminations. So it's just a huge marathon for those guys to thrash and get into the show and just to have an opportunity to try and win the event, let alone hold the Wally at the end of the day. So it's a huge task for them to do, but it's what makes Indy such a big deal. It's their most historic event. It's the biggest event of the season for them, and it's genuinely the bucket list item for a lot of fans. When I went to the U.S. Nationals last year, there was a guy on the plane who sat behind me from New Jersey who took that weekend off because it was a bucket list item. He bought the VIP package for the Top Eliminator Club, and he went to the U.S. Nationals and experienced the entire event. It was a huge deal for him. It was a huge deal for a lot of fans. There's people who come from all over the country, all over the world to go watch that event. So if you live in the Midwest, I highly recommend that if you have the opportunity, go to Indy and watch the U.S. Nationals. The last event I want to give a shout out to is the Texas Stampede of Speed, which is an event that goes down in Enos, Texas at the Texas Motorplex. I think that is a really cool event. What it is, it's a very unique, last of its kind style of events. 10 days of drag racing goes on in that area. It is a huge deal. It is a really massive, really supported event. It's an event that I plan to go to. It's almost 2 weeks of straight racing every single day, and it ends with the NHRA Fall Nationals, which is the third last event on the calendar. I think it's a really cool event. It's one that I plan on going to if I can cover. It's one that I have marked on my calendar. I had friends who really tried to tell me I need to go to that event. I wasn't able to do it last year, but I do plan on trying to do it this year or at some point in 2024 or so forth. It is a really cool event. It's something that if you live in the Texas area, I think you should check it out. And because a lot of big names do end up going down there, and they have head-up racing, bracket racing, just all kinds, call-out racing. It's just a really neat event. They have concerts to go out there. I believe they had a rodeo or something like that out there. But it's just a really cool part of the event that is one of the highlights of the season, and a lot of fans really mark on their calendar as an event to go to. Another reason why you should go to the NHRA event is just the senses that you get when you're there. If you've never been to an NHRA event or you've never met someone who has, the way that it's hard to describe what it's like to be at an NHRA event just because of the sound and the feel of it. You talk to a lot of fans now, and they say that racing isn't the way it was. For instance, NASCAR used to have 1,000 horsepower. Now they're on maybe 540. IndyCar used to run V8s. Now they're on turbo V6s. Same for F1, V10s to a V6. So it's changed a lot over time. But the one thing that stayed true to form in my eyes is the NHRA. The sound is still there. The moment that I started watching NHRA, there is not another form of racing that gives you the experience that NHRA has. There are video compilations out there of fans who experience a fuel pass for the first time in their life. And the reaction on there is the same for anybody who's ever been there. The way your body shocks and freezes when a fuel car takes off of the line just because you're not expecting what's about to happen. The moment a fuel car slams the throttle and those butterflies go flying open and they take off down the racetrack, your whole body freezes as it is just shocked with the amount of power that is being laid down to the ground. It'll shake the ground. You can feel it in your chest. You can feel your ears tickle because of the spike and the sound it is. You have to cover your ears just so that way you don't go deaf. And it's just, there is none other like that. And just on top of that too, just the smell of nitro in the air is a very, very unreal, different kind of feeling that unless you've seen it in person, you just don't know. We also have to go to it because of the personalities that are within the NHRA. It's just, the one thing you always hear is how the personalities have left racing. It's a very copy-paste thing, and it's still kind of a problem within the NHRA, but it is really replaced with the amount of personality that is within that paddock. People that are in the paddock that have the amazing sense of humor, that are the best talkers on the mic when you give them a chance to speak. The guys like Steve Johnson, obviously when you think of it, you think of John Force, the amazing personality and humor and wit of Antron Brown that can really sell you on anything he needs to say. And then guys like Ron Capps who have these amazing stories from their careers. And then there's just the overwhelming positivity of the people like Justin Ashley and Krista Baldwin and Camry Caruso. Those guys that they can be the most positive people in the world, the most polite, most down-to-earth people that you fall in love with. And the guy who's on the top of that list, obviously, is going to be Clay Millican. If you never heard of that guy, you need to hear that guy. Go watch his YouTube channel. Go watch his vlogs. Go watch his story. Listen to everything. You'll fall in love with him. He's one of the nicest guys in drag racing that you'll ever meet. There's a lot of really cool personalities within the NHRA that is really not shown, that really don't get the mainstream attention that they get. And I really do feel they deserve it, because there are some of the nicest people and they're some of the most entertaining people that you can get to talk. And if you don't get a chance to hear them talk, then you're missing out too. I keep saying that, but it's just because it's really true. I feel that the NHRA, in terms of personality, in terms of atmosphere, in terms of experience and fan exposure, there's really nothing like it. There's really no other form of racing out there that has it like that, and it also feeds into the championship format that they have. The number one thing I always hear from fans when I look online is the championship. They don't like these gimmick Final Four, Game 7 championship manufactured style points that they have. And the NHRA has their own version of that, but from the previous side that a lot of fans clamor to want to get back, which is the countdown to the championship, which, if you've heard of it, you know what I'm talking about. What they do is follow the U.S. Nationals. They have their final remaining events. They take the top 10 in points, and then what they'll do is they add on a minimum qualifying attempts that they make. It'll lock them into the championship, but to keep it simplified, top 10 in points, lock them in. Anyone below isn't going to be able to compete for the championship. And then they'll go out there and they reset the points to a certain amount based on the amount of wins and points that they have. And then they go into the final few races and they race for the championship. And what happens a lot of times is it takes until those final 3 events before a championship can really be locked in. Last season alone, 3 of the 4 championships weren't decided until the Pomona Finals, and the other one was decided a race early in Vegas. But even then, those 3 finals came down to maybe the first round. And then the funny car season wasn't decided until the final round. And I think it's a really cool, it's a perfect points format for anyone who wants that kind of stuff. If you're going to have a gimmick, I think the countdown to the championship format is perfect, because it allows the opportunity for those runaway champions to get the championship they deserve for having a perfect season. But it also allows for those Game 7 moments to naturally happen. I truly believe if you make every championship a Game 7 moment, they lose the feel and the meaning of it that makes them so unique. Of course, you want that press headline of, oh, championship decided in the final 20 laps, but they lose all meaning if that is the norm. You want them to be unique for a reason, and that's what makes them so unique. And with NHRA, it allows the opportunity for that to still happen, but it does give you the opportunity to further have the chance to have that Game 7 moment happen. And that's what makes them so perfect and so unique. So I've had people tell me, oh, the NHRA should have a playoff format too. I think that'd be perfect for them. And I'm like, no, what we have right now is perfect. I think it's a perfect style of gimmick championship to keep it close, keep it entertaining, but also keep it in a position where it's still fair. I know a lot of drivers aren't the biggest fan of it, aren't the biggest supporters, even 10 years after, and there's fans who will be divided until the day I die. They'll be divided until that whole championship format is 100 years old. But I still think that of all the, I guess, gimmick championships, it's perfect. I don't think you can decide a championship in a better way than that. Now I'm going to move into the reason on 3 things you need to watch each of the 4 pro categories. And yes, I mean 4. This isn't going to be a video just talking about the fuel cars. I'm talking about pro stock and pro stock motorcycle. Because like I mentioned earlier in the video, a lot of people, from what I've seen, even back when I was 17 years old going to the U.S. Nationals, the moment the last pair of funny cars go down the track and they start to prep the track for pro stock and they hear on the announcers, all right, it's time for the pro stock category. Fans, whether you're casual or hardcore, get up out of their seats, move to the aisles, file down, and head to the pits to go watch them build those engines, which I get it. I understand why you're there to watch the fuel cars. That is the big attention grabber. But I feel that if you're doing that, you're not really getting the maximum exposure that you can to drag racing, because in my honest opinion, that pro stock and pro stock motorcycle are some of the most competitive classes that the pro NHRA categories have to offer. They're the most underlooked, underappreciated class that NHRA has to offer besides the sportsman categories, which I'll make a whole nother video talking about that. And the reason why is just because they're really good. They're really competitive. They're really fast. They're hard to drive. They look the closest to the manufactured cars that you're going to get out there in the pro categories. And Starting a pro stock motorcycle, I think the thing you need to look out for is the new faces that are going to be on those bikes. Riders like Chase Van Sant, who are going to be taking over at White Alligator Racing. He's taking over the ride from Jerry Savoy, the former pro stock champion and the former U.S. Nationals champion. He's taking a back seat to a part-time deal. I believe he said he's going to run Gainesville. I'm not 100% sure about that. He said he was interested in Gainesville. I know he said Vegas is on there. I know Indianapolis, I believe, is on there too. But Chase Van Sant is going to be taking over the full-time riding duties for that team. And he was really looked upon as the driver, as a rider who is going to become really kind of a future for that class. He's looked at as one of the fastest riders in the classes that he ran beforehand. He's seen as a really fast rider and an up-and-coming star. And I think he's going to be a rider that can quickly be looked at as the next first-time winner in NHRA. And there's a couple other riders and racers in there that are on that list. Another rider you can look out for is Gage Herrera, who's taking over Angel Sampé's ride at Vance and Hines Racing. Vance and Hines has not won a championship since 2019, back when Andrew Hines won his final championship. Ever since then, has been the Matt Smith show, and they've been trying to find a way to get themselves back on top of the pro stock motorcycle world. I think Gage Herrera is going to be a really big ad for them. He has shown he has speed. He has shown he has talent. I think he has what it takes to be a champion. Do I think it's going to happen this season? No, I don't. But I do see him possibly making it to a final round. I see him maybe also winning an NHRA Wally. It just all depends on how things go out. But the person that I do think you need to look out for in terms of a championship competitor is Eddie Krawiec, another Vance and Hines rider. He debuted the Gen 3 Hayabusa body at Gainesville in a test a few weeks ago. And he said he was very happy with that bike. He's very confident about it. He's trying to do everything he can to dethrone Matt Smith. Now, whether that is just mouthpiece talk to try and hype up this Gen 3 Hayabusa to make it sound all fast, I don't know. But from what I've heard, from what I've seen happen with that bike, it seems that everything he said is true. I think this is going to be a really good shot for him to try and take down Matt Smith, which is what he needs to do, because Vance and Hines are really looking to try and get that Pro Stock Motorcycle Championship back in their stable. And I think Eddie Krawiec is going to be the best chance they have of doing that. I can see Joey Gladstone doing it. I'm not sure. But my main goal, my main look right now is that Eddie Krawiec is going to be his main competition. And why do I say that? It's because Matt Smith is hunting a 7th Pro Stock Motorcycle World Championship, which would break the all-time record. He won the 6th title last year. That puts him in a 3-way tie with Andrew Hines, who I mentioned earlier, and the late Dave Schultz, who is looked at as one of the best Pro Stock motorcycle riders, if not the greatest Pro Stock motorcycle rider of all time. I made a video about him and his career. I highly recommend you go watch that. So, Matt Smith, what you need to look out for too is he's also looking to ride a Suzuki for the full season. He's very much committed to riding that bike this season. He switched off to the Buell every now and again last season. He finished off the season on the Buell to go win that 6th title. He's very committed. He said he made about 150 pulls on that bike over the course of the off season, and he has the factory support of Suzuki behind him, so that's a really big ad for him. Whether the Suzuki works or not is a big question mark because he had to switch off of it, and he's, like I said, very committed to wanting to commit the season and win the championship on the Suzuki, and he seems like that. But it's going to be a question if he has all the bugs figured out by the time he unloads for Gainesville. Another class you need to look out, like I said, is Pro Stock. And starting off there, Jerry Tucker joining Elite Motorsports for 2023 in his first season. He said he was very excited about joining it. He has a background in sprint cars and dirt midget racing. It is a class that he's always wanted to compete in. He's joining Elite Motorsports, like I said, which is right now the class to beat, the team to beat. They have owned Pro Stock for the last few seasons. They have been the only team that could bring the fight to KB Racing and Greg Anderson. And if what they were able to do last season is indication, then they're going to run away with it this year too. And I think Jerry Tucker is going to be a good ad for them. But obviously, the star driver to look out for is going to be Erica Enders, the 5-time champion, trying to make it six this time. I think she is going to be a very tough competition, but what she also has to keep in mind too is Titan Racing merging with KB Racing. A very big ad with those two merging. That's going to get the gap between Greg Anderson and Erica Enders even closer, but what that's also going to help too is Camry Caruso, who a lot of people within NHRA are looking at as the next first-time winner this season, and me too. She's got a #1 qualifier. She's made a final round appearance before. She is a very fast competitor. She has a few, I think, new sponsors joining her too. I think a bit of returning sponsors as well. And she is a very strong competitor and a front runner for why you should look out for her being a first-time winner. I think she's going to have a really, really good season on her hands this season. I see her making the countdown. I see her making final rounds. I see her possibly getting a national event to win. If not this season, it's going to definitely be next season. But I see this season being the one where it's going to happen. There's also just other racers that you look out for too. Troy Coughlin Jr., she had a couple wins this season. Aaron Stanfield's another strong competitor in that class too. But you also can't look out for the Quadra family. Both senior and junior are really good competitors in that class, and they had some really big adds this season for themselves and some improvements with Elite Motorsports. So I do see them bringing their fight to national events too. They haven't won in a bit. I do possibly see them making a couple more finals rounds. I was able in Indianapolis to go watch one of the Quadras make the semifinals, and I thought he really had a chance, but it ended up not happening. So those two classes I do feel are classes that you need to look out for. I think they're going to be very competitive. I think they're going to be very fast. They're going to be very exciting, and they're going to be ones that you cannot afford to miss. I am pleading with the fans that go to these events. Do not participate in the Max Exodus. Stay in the seats, support Pro Stock and Pro Stock Motorcycle, and watch what those guys can do. Because both with the call-out and the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, there are going to be some racing this season that you can't afford to miss. Please, I understand you want to go watch the funny cars and top fuel teams rebuild those engines and go meet your drivers, but stay and watch Pro Stock. For the love of God, please go watch Pro Stock. And I talked about it, so we're going to move on. Moving into funny car. Someone you need to look out for, Alex Laughlin. I talked about Pro Stock, former Pro Stock racer. He won the U.S. Nationals there. He moved over to Top Fuel last season to go fulfill a dream. Had a bit of a struggling season. Is now moving down to funny car, taking Jim Campbell's ride at Jim Dunn Racing. And that is a really big ad for Jim Dunn. I think Dunn is a team that a lot of people, including myself, have seen that they have what it takes to be a front runner in NHRA. They could be a competitor in those not the title, but the national event scene. And what's really held them back is they did not have the sponsors to really back them up. They have what they need to be a competitor, but they just don't have the funding to do it. With Alex Laughlin, who has Hot Wheels and Haviland backing him, moving in there with Blaze Exhaust and with Moon Eyes, I think that's a big ad for them, and I think that's going to be a huge boost to them. I've seen the testing videos this season. Alex has gotten used to it really quickly, and I see him possibly being a competitor this season. Another person you need to look out for that's not one of the big three, which I'll talk about in a minute, is Cruz Pedregon. I know Monday Morning Racer last season, he talked about that he thought Cruz Pedregon was going to be a title pick this season, or last season. He didn't end up doing that well. But I do see him possibly improving this season. He has a wave of momentum backing him. He won the last event in the NHRA Finals in Pomona, had a career best elapsed time to finish it all off, and he won that event, and he was very emotional about it. And I truly do feel that Cruz Pedregon is a guy who has momentum to really pull forward, to really move that into 2023. Do I see him possibly breaking into that top 3 ranks? No, but I do see him winning more than one national event this season. And I do, if that is the case, and it does happen, he could really do what he needs to throw his hat in the ring for a championship bid. Do I see it happening? No. But I see him performing a lot better this season than he did last season. So that's another guy you need to look out for, and that's Snap-on Dodge Charger. He's been really fast in the past. He has really proved what he needs to prove. But I do see him improving his competition to really bring it to those top 3. And what I mean by those top 3, Ron Capps, Matt Hagan, and Robert Hight. Those 3 have owned the class for the last few years, no doubt about it. Ron Capps is the he's won 3 championships. He's won the last 2. And what I do feel by that is Ron Capps is going to be right now the man to beat. Do I see him as a championship favorite? No, because with those 3, it's impossible to really see who's out front. Robert Hight is the guy right now that I'm looking at. Hight right now is looking for revenge. If you saw the videos from Pomona at the NHRA Finals when he lost in, I believe, round 2, and he sat on the sidelines to go watch Ron Capps run away and take the championship away, you can see in his eyes, he understood what happened. He wasn't happy, and I think right now what's going to happen right now is he's going to go into 2023, take no prisoners, unapologetic. He's going to be out for blood. He's going to take this championship by force if he has to. He was upset with how that season ended. I could tell he's going to be hungry this season. He's going to be going for everything he's got to try and take that 2023 title back, because 2022 was the one that got away from him. Ron Capps is going to be a really hard competition. So is Matt Hagan with the improvements that Tony Stewart has made over the offseason. But right now, Robert Hight is the guy that those 3 are going to be looking out for. Anybody in that class is going to be looking out for. Robert Hight, I believe, is going to be one of the ones to watch going to Gainesville. And not just with everything else too. There's so much other storylines that I haven't got to. J.R. Todd looking to get back to form. He didn't win in 2022. He was very frustrated by that. The best he got was a semifinal appearance out in Vegas and then a finals in Seattle, but he has not won in a bit. John Force won the 4x Nationals out in Carolina. He's going to look to improve too. And then also Alexis Joria is another driver that I will look out for as well. But right now, the 4 people that I'm looking for in this season is Hight, Hagan, Caps, and Pedregon. I think those 4 are going to be the ones to watch this season, because if Pedregon can really turn that stuff around, I can see him being a strong competitor. Maybe not a championship, but definitely a national event competitor. Lastly, Top Fuel. If you watched Top Fuel last season, you know what I'm going to talk about, and that is the competition that is taking on in that class. There is nothing more that I can say about them than what is going on there. When I think of a championship favorite, there is no argument that I have for any of them for why I think they're going to be the favorite, because that's just how close it is. With everything that happened last season, with the improvements that they made in the offseason, the competition, the gap between the top 10 in that class, you could take it from maybe here, they're about maybe here. That's how close those guys are. It is the most competitive racing on the planet right now. They have owned racing for the last season or so, and I think it's going to be even closer this year with the improvements that we've seen. Justin Ashley is one to look out for. He is still looking for that first title. I thought last year was going to be the one that was going to do it. He didn't get it. I think he's going to be one to look out for. Obviously, Brittany Force, right now the face of the class. She won the championship last season. She has owned the class in terms of world records. She is, by and large, the best racer in the class right now. But there's also other racers you need to look out for. Steve Torrence, looking to get back to form. He recently put in a national dragster that he's looking to take back his title. And man, that is one racer that you need to look out for. Same for Tony Schumacher. He said over the offseason, this is the season he's been looking forward to. And it's something that he's anticipated more than really many other seasons. And he's done this for a while. So with Steve Torrence and Tony Schumacher looking to get back to form, what a lot of these racers need to do right now is suppress that from the beginning. You cannot let those two cook, because if you do, you're going to have a big problem on your hand. But you also have drivers like Antron Brown, the reigning U.S. Nationals champion. He finished in the top 3 in the championship last season. He's looking to improve. You have Austin Prock. He won 2 of the national events in the countdown after a very lackluster season. He's a competitor you need to look out for. Clay Millican, he last season had a very struggling season, made the finals in Arizona, failed to make the finals for the rest of the season. But after Indy, when Rick Ware Racing bought out Stringer Performance, you could start to see the gears turning in that team. I said for a while that they're in the same position as maybe Dunn Racing. They have everything they need in their house to be a top competitive team. They just don't have the funding to do it. Now, with Rick Ware coming in and helping fund that team, helping bring them more sponsors, helping bring them more exposure, and now that they've had an off-season to move everything over to North Carolina and start to get everything in-house and get everything put together in the right place, and from what I've seen in testing, the smile on his face, of course, he always has a smile on his face. He always does. You can't take it off. But with everything that's in place, I think Clay Millican is going to get a national event Wally this season. I think it's going to happen. Rick Ware has a very good knack, for some reason, at finding these teams that perform well but don't have the funding. He gives them the money they need, and then they go shoot off to the moon. So you can add Clay Millican into that mix of being a front runner in NHRA this season. And then, of course, you have, like I said, Austin Prock, Brittany Force, Doug Coletta looking to get back to form. Coletta himself, just both J.R. Todd and Doug looking to get back to form. Doug unveiled running the Canopy cockpit this season. I think he's going to be the one to watch out for, possibly get a few wins. I mean, just what can I say? The competition going into 2023, I maybe list about the entire countdown from last season right there alone. And they're all that close. They're all front runners, in my opinion, to possibly be a championship favorite. Obviously, right now, the 2 favorites, in my opinion, are going to be Justin Ashley and Brittany Force. And those 2 are going to be just throwing haymakers at each other. But they got to be too careful, because if they aren't, like I said, Tony Schumacher, Steve Torrence, Antron Brown, Clay Millican, Austin Prock, I think I said Doug Coletta already, just the competition in that class is second to none. There is no other class where you have that many people on one stage and say, any of them could be a championship contender this season. That is just where they're at. So long-winded video. I know I probably talked way too fast. I'm going to maybe add subtitles to this. But that's just how excited I am. I think this is going to be a very, very, very pivotal moment in this season. I think it's going to be a very exciting season. I think it's going to be a very exciting season. So please, do yourself a favor. Look up the TV schedule. They're going to be on Fox for Gainesville for the Gatornationals to kick it off. They have a 5-hour broadcast for the U.S. Nationals on Monday. They have everything in their hands to make this one of the most exciting seasons out there in the entire motorsports landscape. And if you don't watch it this season, you're going to be kicking yourself in the butt for not doing it. So subscribe to this channel because I'll be covering each event, whether I'm at the track or I'm at home. I'll be covering those events. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. All the links will be provided down below. And please do yourself a favor. Go watch NHRA this season. Follow along and support it and root for it, because if you don't, like I said, you're going to regret it. But until then, about 13 to 12 days, Gainesville for Gatornationals. I'll see you there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A half a foot of rain fell on Gainesville Raceway over the course of just a handful of days, forcing the NHRA Safety Safari to employ emergency measures on Saturday to return to raceable condition. But there was one saving grace. These people, the fans of the Amalie Oil NHRA Gatornationals,